Greetings once again as I join you from the Volleyball Hall of Fame here in Holyoke, Massachusetts. It's time as we enshrine the class of 2008, so kind of an extension of our perspectives in volleyball. And with this, talking with Hugh Mccutcheon, who is the head coach for the United States men's volleyball team. And you would almost say as fast as time flies, just a couple of months off of your return from the Beijing Olympic Games.
Yeah.
So first I want to thank you for spending some time with us.
You're welcome.
And I mean, volleyball, an incredible sport, but maybe something that people don't really appreciate until they have really taken it on from the level that you do.
Yeah, it's hard to know where the people's passion for our sport comes from, or when it kind of gets into people's systems. But it seems that people who do play it become very passionate about it very quickly.
Now, for the level that you are now, where you're coaching probably one of the most elite teams in the world based on the success that our U.S. men's team has had, tell me a little bit about your background. I would think, or is it wrong to assume, that you spent some time as a player before becoming an assistant?
Yeah, no, I played for a while, and after playing collegiately and professionally, I decided to go back to graduate school and do some more work there. And coaching was a means to that end. And after some time coaching, I realized that I'd rather coach than anything, so I just stayed with that.
Can you tell me a little bit, because I always, when you talk about professional athletes, and in this particular case, I think it applies to the elite
Absolutely.
in volleyball. They're
Yeah.
definitely professionals
Absolutely.
in their game.
Yeah.
But I always talk about what it's like for a coach to have to figure out how to massage egos and personalities. People don't understand that part of the game.
Yeah, it's very real. With our guys especially, they're all playing overseas in Europe or in Asia. They're usually the star of the team that they play on. They're hired guns, and when they come back on the USA team, we have to get them to really believe that the team agenda is the thing that takes priority, and then that their personal agenda, while important, is not a thing that we're worried too much about. It's about accomplishing team goals, and we really believe that the rising tide is going to lift all the boats. If we can succeed as a group, then we're all going to somehow benefit from that.
Now, one thing that I found interesting in a small chat that you and I had off camera, but I'd be remiss if I didn't share. You would think, as with most sports, you kind of come in as an individual, maybe you get onto a trial team, and then you kind of scout out the talent that you want to be able to mold your team into.
Right.
But when it comes to USA Volleyball, the process is, in fact, a lot longer, a lot more arduous.
Yeah, it takes a while, I think, for anyone that wants to be an elite volleyball player, that wants to try and win Olympic gold medals. I mean, the process is definitely years. Players that come into our system now, we talk to them about, hey, in 8 years' time is when you want to start thinking about playing in your Olympic Games. And some of them might get to go to Olympics in the meantime, but to really contribute, to really be successful at the international level for a U.S. player, we need the experience that we can garner over those 8 years to help us be better at the critical moments in the Olympic environment.
So based on what might be your actual active competing traveling squad versus those in your farm system, how many athletes, be them in the scouting process or in active training, are in your farm system?
We keep track of around 40 to 50 guys. Obviously we travel with 12. During the summer we'll probably train with about 24, and then in the fall and in the winter we'll have different groups that'll come in and train with us, especially younger guys coming out of college. And then also in between there are some players that might have trained with us and are going away and playing overseas, and they don't get to come in our gym until they've reached a certain level of proficiency, and then they get to be part of the main team. So there's kind of a training USA squad, and then there's kind of the playing USA squad.
In interviewing people and wanting to learn things for where I'm about to go, I mean, there's never a time to figure out when to make this segue, so if you don't mind. A lot of us were rocked by the news early in the games about a pair of Americans that were injured, one of whom we lost because of what was probably just some random act of violence, unfortunately.
Sure.
To later learn it hit so close to home because, in fact, they were in-laws of yours.
Yep.
If you could just kind of help us reflect, because of the reason that you were there, I mean, sportsmanship, international, this, that, and that, but then to have that kind of cross the bridge, if I could use a phrase, how do you manage to find the focus to realize that at some point you have to take care of family and personal business? And it affects us all as a country.
Right.
To then realize that as soon as you can, you also want to focus on the reason you were there.
Yeah, I mean, it was fairly clearly delineated for me when the attack occurred that my responsibility was to my family, and I think at the time I said publicly, that my family's my life. Volleyball is just my job, and while I'm passionate about what I do and I'm invested completely in the team, my responsibility was to be with my wife and her family and to do my best to help us get through that period of time. Once that was squared away, once we'd done everything we could in terms of dealing with all of the loose ends that came as a result of the attack, then it was appropriate to get back into the international sporting arena and get back to coaching. And once we did that, obviously it was very satisfying. I think as I get a little bit of distance and perspective on the event now, very satisfying that we're able to achieve our 4-year goal and be able to do as well as we did in spite of the tragedy that occurred.
Can you share a little bit as far as to how your players almost as well gather around when something like this happens to one of their own?
There's no doubt that the guys, we say a lot that we're all in it together, and I think the guys felt that and were very supportive, but we can only speculate as to what the overall impact of it was on the team. But I think, if anything, it gave them a little perspective on the fact that, one, life is fragile, and here's a very immediate lesson on that, and two, that we had this great opportunity. We knew we were a good team. We believed that we were capable of doing very well in this Olympic Games. And given that we had this opportunity, I think the guys probably got a little more singular focus in terms of their concern for a lot of the inevitable distractions that happen at the Olympics. I think they were able to just really get on task and stay with that for the 2 weeks, and obviously it paid dividends in that regard as well.
If I was to ask, last question, kind of a two-parter. Volleyball is a great sport. Mm-hmm. Sure, it's not one of the big three if you look at football, basketball, baseball.
Baseball, sure.
But that being said, it does continue to grow. Are there hopes, dreams, visions that you have just for the future of volleyball? And then just what does volleyball mean to you?
Well, we're always looking to grow the game. There's no two ways about it. But I think the more people try and force the agenda and start, everyone's like, hey, you got to go and tell people how great we are. The way you show people this is a great sport is you go out and you show them it's a great sport. I would hope that, with the success USA Volleyball had during this Olympic Games, that there might be a few people out there that were inspired to maybe get out and play a little bit more. But ultimately we can't alter people's behaviors. We just got to present a quality product, great coaching from grassroots all the way through to the international level. We've got to be the best organization that we can be, so that when people do come into contact with our sport, they want to stay for all the right reasons. And what the sport means to me personally, it's very meaningful. Obviously, I've been fortunate in that all I've ever done for a vocation is either play volleyball or coach volleyball. So it's a big part of my life. And I met my wife through volleyball. I'm very indebted to the sport. But I'm happy that I get to be a part of it, and certainly happy that I get to contribute to its development. And very grateful to have had the opportunity to have achieved what I deem to be the ultimate success in our sport, to be Olympic champions. So it's been a wonderful journey.
Hugh Mccutcheon, head coach of USA Volleyball. I'm Scott Harris with Volleyball in Perspective here at the International Volleyball Hall of Fame in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.